The organisation Open Secret says there's a group of officials who are still working in the National Prosecuting Authority and the police, or the Hawks, who've been able to stop proper accountability for crimes of the state capture era. They say this is why there are so few prosecutions for the crimes that were committed during that time. They're actually now demanding that these officials be removed. Raisa Pather is an investigator for Open Secrets. Raisa, good afternoon to you. Some of these officials, like Andrew Chauke and others, they've been well known for a long time. What are you saying here? What do you believe is happening in the NPA?
Well, thank you so much, Stephen. The NPA knows about these prosecutors like Andrew Chauke. When the new management took over in 2018, in the NPA's first annual report, they said that there were prosecutors inside the authority who were accused of aiding and abetting state capture, and that's a quote. So the question to the NPA is, why has it taken so long to investigate and discipline officials like Andrew Chauke? Chauke is the head of prosecutions in Joburg. He is responsible for cases like the Prasa case, but he has also been accused of delaying state capture cases like the case against former Gauteng and Health MEC Brian Flongwa. So why is he still responsible for state capture cases and in such a powerful office?
It seems amazing because we've known this for, I think, over a decade that's been public knowledge. I mean, could this be deliberate? Is someone keeping him in office?
I'm not sure. I mean, I think, we know that there have been issues between the NPA management and Chauke. As recent as last year, the NDPP, Shamla Batoy, sent Chauke very pressing questions about his conduct in cases like the Brian Flongwa case. And we now know, thanks to communication from the NPA in response to our report, that Chauke is under investigation. But what the NPA has failed to explain is why it is taking so long to make a finding against Chauke and why he has not been suspended pending the outcome of the investigation.
I was going to come to that. In your view, is there enough for a precautionary suspension? And I realize that he would have the legal right to challenge that.
Absolutely. Chauke's his track record in the Flongwa case is well known. He made decisions in that case that led to delays. For example, there were issues regarding an audit report from forensic auditors in the Flongwa case, and the NPA couldn't find a credible forensic investigator to do this report. Surely a person of Chauke's caliber, a senior and experienced prosecutor, would have known that this is holding up the case. Let's find somebody, or let's escalate this up the management chain. Similarly, he was involved in a very senior role in the decision to prosecute Johan Boysen, the former Hawks head in KZN. Now, Boysen was accused of leading a death squad in the Hawks in KZN, and those allegations were very much debunked. The NPA itself found that there was insufficient evidence to charge Boysen. So why was Chauke pushing for a prosecution along with other prosecutors when there wasn't sufficient evidence to do so? Surely this is enough to place him on precautionary suspension.
Are there other people like Chauke who are still in the NPA?
Yes, there's another well-known prosecutor called Salome. Now, Maema is also in a very senior position within the NPA. He is currently the deputy head of prosecutions in the Northwest. Now, Maema's history at the NPA spans a notorious list of prosecutions. They include the SARS Rogue Unit prosecution, the prosecution against Pravin Gordhan over former SARS Deputy Commissioner Ivan Pillai's pension payouts, as well as the McBride case. And these are cases where Salome led the prosecution against these officials who were in their own right seen to be sort of protectors or corruption busters in their times in office. Pravin Gordhan, as we know at that time, was very outspoken against the Zuma administration and state capture. And the SARS Rogue Unit officials were responsible in some way for investigating tax crimes related to high-profile corruption and political cases. So it's questionable why Maema has also not been placed on precautionary suspension when he was involved in prosecuting cases against people who were seen to be corruption busters in the height of state capture.
The top leadership of the National Prosecuting Authority, Shamila Batohi, the people below her, they must know all of this. They must know a lot more than you do. Why do you think they haven't acted? Is there any possible reason why they haven't acted? I mean, is there just a lack of will? I mean, they will watch, might see this interview, and they will know. They will read your report, I'm sure, And they will know that everybody knows this and that this is what is stopping it. The perception is that they don't seem to care.
Absolutely. I mean, the NPA, like we said, they've admitted that some of these prosecutors are under investigation, and that includes Chauke and Salome. What is curious is that it's taken 4 years since Shamila Batoye was appointed NDPP to make any conclusive finding against these prosecutors. The NPA Act says that the NPA must have a structure to deal with complaints against prosecutors. And in December last year, the NPA said that it was establishing an ethics office to do this. Why has it taken 4 years for this office to be established? And at what stage of the process are we in establishing this office? It would also be good to know when these investigations will be concluded. So far, the NPA has remained evasive and unwilling to respond to these questions, unwilling to be open and transparent. And what we are saying is that the NPA should be accountable to the public. It should tell the public what it is doing to hold its own to account. Otherwise, public trust won't be restored.
If we continue like this, we're not going to see any of the major prosecutions for state capture. I mean, we're just not going to see anything happen, despite what the Zondo Commission found.
Absolutely. And we must remember that the Zondo Commission didn't make findings in terms of the NPA's own, the implications for the NPA in terms of how it was captured during the state capture era, particularly under the leadership of Jiba and Sean Abrams. But the Zondo Commission did make findings, damning findings against the NPA, saying that it has taken too long for the prosecuting authority to prosecute state capture crimes. And unless these prosecutors are replaced with competent and reliable officials, it may very well be that we won't see state capture crimes prosecuted.
There's another issue around some of the recommendations of the Zondo Commission, and they talk about in that around deferred prosecution agreements. And as I understand it, this primarily is around companies. So the idea would be, and I know they've been used in other jurisdictions, the idea is that this sort of prosecution is deferred. It doesn't happen so long as certain undertakings are given about future behavior, about information. You believe they should not be used, these deferred prosecution agreements should not be used. Why not?
Absolutely. So deferred prosecutions have been quite widely touted as a solution for the NPA's troubles. And we must remember that the NPA has a numerous amount of issues going on that is affecting its ability to prosecute state capture crimes. It has a lack of resources. It has a skill shortage in terms of financial crime and understanding financial crime. And also there are going to be budget cuts in the years to come, which the NPA knows. So it's facing numerous setbacks in terms of prosecuting these cases. DPAs, we believe, however, are not a quick fix for the NPA to prosecute or to get justice for corporations who are implicated in corruption. The reason we say this is because DPAs allow out-of-court settlements to be made quietly. They are not disclosed. And instead what happens is that instead of admitting guilt, companies are allowed to pay a fine, which essentially becomes the cost of doing business. And while these fines aren't meager, they're not minor. Ordinary people like us would struggle to pay them. For companies like McKinsey or Bain, it's simply the cost of doing business. It's not really going to affect their bottom line. And in the meantime, these are companies who profited from state capture and benefited from it. And what we argue is that there should at least be an admission of guilt, and there should be a form of justice that allows these companies to feel the punishment for their actions and to not allow them to repeat them. In the UK and the US, we've seen companies like HSBC, Citibank sign DPA agreements and then continue to repeat their crimes. We're saying that in South Africa, we should use this research and do better. They should be prosecuted like companies should. Companies and politicians are not above the law.
Raisa Patha, thank you, investigator for Open Secrets. Really do appreciate the time.